Attorney General Merrick Garland appointing Delaware U.S. Attorney David Weiss as special counsel in the ongoing Hunter Biden tax probe. The appointment allows Weiss to prosecute Hunter Biden in any district he deems fit, rather than just in Delaware. The move indicating the investigation into Hunter is not over. But here's what his attorney had to say about this yesterday. Watch.
I'm confident that if this prosecutor does what has been done for the last 5 years, look at the facts, the evidence, and the law, then the only conclusion can be what the conclusion was on July 26. It's new evidence. There's no new evidence to be found.
Former U.S. Attorney General Matt Whitaker joins me now this morning. And correct me if I'm wrong here, but you've already spoken on the channel about this, that Weiss is now running up against the statute of limitations on the tax and the gun charges. So he's going to have to make either a quick decision or the clock runs out.
Yeah, remember, and it's good to be with you this morning from Des Moines, Iowa, Cheryl. But remember when they had the plea hearing, they filed this information on the tax charges in Delaware, and obviously they've withdrawn that or attempting to, and now he probably is going to bring it either in California or the District of Columbia, which is, I guess, the appropriate venue. But the statute of limitations has already run for the two most serious years, 2014 and 2015. And, we're like you said, we're running up against the statute of limitations, especially for the gun charges. So we should expect those to be filed sooner rather than later. But, for Hunter Biden, those are much more serious because the diversion he had and the agreement he had would have gotten rid of a felony for the illegal gun possession. And now he would be facing a felony charge in that case. I just wonder why now? It just seems to me that I was calling for a special counsel for the last couple of years in the Hunter Biden case because I think it was appropriate. And I'm not sure that Weiss, based on what he's done already in this case, can be trusted, especially when the government and Hunter's attorneys have agreed to such a sweetheart deal in the past. I'm just not sure this is going to do justice.
Well, the Wall Street Journal points out that this means that the probe into Hunter Biden's business dealings in particular, this is the James Comer probe, basically that may hit a dead end because, it makes it convenient for Weiss and for Merrick Garland. They can use this excuse of an ongoing investigation, and that investigation can go on for, well, who knows how long. I mean, I think that's a very valid point, Matt. But I do want to bring in Sherry Trump. She's on set with me. She's got a question for you.
Yeah, so DOJ regulations state that the person who's appointed as special counsel actually has to be outside of the U.S. government. But David Weiss is attorney for Delaware. So how does this work? He's a district attorney for Delaware. So how does this work exactly? How did they sidestep this issue?
Well, we're not sure that this isn't, kind of a way to make the special counsel and make Weiss somehow have to trip over that in the future. I mean, I'm not sure we can trust Merrick Garland to do things not only by the book, but also for a reason that is in the best interest of justice. I think as a former prosecutor and, obviously having sat in the chair that Merrick Garland's sitting in right now, I know that we made decisions when I was there, that were only in the interest of justice and on behalf of the American people, and we took that very seriously. Merrick Garland seems to be willing to make political decisions, at least from my perspective, and that includes appointing a special counsel that may violate the regulations. Obviously, if you assume that he's doing the right thing by appointing Weiss as special counsel, you have to also assume that they thought through this issue and want to give him broadened power in order to pursue possibly charges regarding the Foreign Corrupt Practices Act and the Foreign Agent Registration Act. And those are very serious as part of this investigation. But again, as I look at this, I just can't figure out why now. It just doesn't make any sense, and I would love for Merrick Garland to explain to the American people why he's doing this right now.
Well, many are saying that this is a political move by Merrick Garland. Yeah. And to be clear, I think part of this is the judge. This may be a way to kind of circumvent the judge who basically called out that sweetheart deal that Weiss had negotiated and said, this is ridiculous. Any average American would be thrown in jail for what Hunter Biden was accused of, especially on the gun charges. But I do want to ask you to move on to another issue here. A fourth criminal indictment against former President Trump could be issued as early this week. So you've got this Georgia grand jury. They may begin hearing evidence against the former president today. Former Georgia Lieutenant Governor Jeff Duncan confirming he's going to testify tomorrow. Here's what he wrote on X, quote, "Republicans should never let honesty be mistaken for weakness." And then you've got independent journalists also posting that he received a call from Fulton County District Attorney Fani Willis and is required to testify. So, AG Whitaker, what do you expect from all of this? In particular, from your experience, I think the time frame is what we're all curious about here.
Yeah, obviously in Georgia, this investigation has been going on for quite some time. It sounds like they're going to finally present the case and try to bring charges. But, you know, as I was reading about this and as I've listened to some commentary, I think it's very interesting that they're using this racketeering statute that you know, has typically been used against mobsters and organized crime. And this is another case, just like the January 6th case that recently was indicted, where they use laws that were never intended for this purpose, that, you know, the legislature in Georgia never would have contemplated that this would be used in a political candidate case. And so these prosecutors are willing to be so aggressive in their pursuit of Donald Trump in order to, I guess, get him and to charge him and you know, in their hopes, convict him. I think it's just very dangerous for justice because, you know, we need to have, you know, again, ignorance of the law is no excuse. However, you can't assume to know laws that you never thought would apply to you in the first place. So this is a case, along with the January 6th case, I think is very interesting as it proceeds through the courts.
Well, I'm glad you brought up the January 6th case because I did want to ask you about that as well. So the judge that's overseeing that case against Trump has issued this protective order, and this bars President Trump from releasing sensitive evidence. You know, the argument here is that Trump's right to free speech is, quote, not absolute. What did you make of that decision by the judge?
Yeah, I think the judge actually made a very interesting choice in where the line is drawn and the limits of the First Amendment. You know, our founding fathers certainly intended free speech to apply broadly. You know, there's limits. You can't, you know, yell fire in a crowded theater, for example. However, that's the extreme case. In this case, you know, it's only these sensitive documents, and I don't think the government necessarily is going to be required to identify those sensitive documents that can't be released. So, you know, who knows? If I'm the Trump team, it's going to be hard advising my client, Donald Trump, as to how this gag order and this restriction applies. But, you know, he's a candidate for president. The First Amendment, you know, is obviously on his side, as it should be, as he pursues that office. And so I would expect that, you know, we may be back in court fighting this, and I'll come back on your show to talk about it at the time. But this is a very interesting order. All
right. Well, Matt, it's always good to see you. Real quick from Iowa, did you get one of those big pork chops?
Yep, I was at the fair yesterday at Eric Church concert, and I'm going to have a hot dog and a pork chop today on a stick. Had
to ask. Saw those everywhere all weekend. AG Matt Whitaker, it's great to see you, Matt. Come back soon.